Hey, let me tell you about this wild adventure a bunch of sailors had one time. There was this crew, Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Tom, four regular folks who loved the open water more than anything. They'd been buddies since high school, always dreaming about sailing the coast together. One sunny Saturday in April, they finally got their act together, loaded up Jake's old boat, the Salty Breeze, and shoved off from the docks in San Diego. The plan? Cruise up towards Santa Barbara, crack some beers, and just soak in the freedom of the sea. No schedules, no bosses, just the waves and the wind. Jake was the unofficial captain, always wearing this beat-up baseball cap he swore was lucky. Mike was the muscle, hauling ropes and tossing gear around like it weighed nothing. Sarah was the brains, the one who actually knew how to read a map and not get them lost. And Tom? Well, Tom was the joker, always ready with a dumb one-liner to keep everybody laughing. They'd been out on the water a million times before, but this trip felt different, like something big was waiting for them out there. The first day was smooth sailing. The sun was blazing, the water was this unreal shade of blue, and the breeze was just right. They were about 20 miles out when Sarah spotted something shimmering on the horizon. "Hey guys, check it out," she yelled, pointing off the starboard side. Everybody scrambled to the railing, squinting against the glare. At first, it was just a ripple, but then Mike hollered, "Dolphins!" No way. Sure enough, a whole pod of them was cutting through the waves, flipping and spinning like they were putting on a show just for the crew. Tom, of course, couldn't resist. What do you call a dolphin who writes music? A fantastic composer. Everybody groaned, but they were grinning too. The dolphins were close now, maybe 30 feet off the boat, their sleek bodies arcing through the water. Jake grabbed his phone to snap some pics, while Sarah leaned over the edge, totally mesmerized. "I've never seen so many at once," she said, her voice all soft and odd. It was one of those moments you don't forget. Pure, simple, and perfect. They watched for a good half hour, the dolphins darting around like they owned the ocean. The crew was buzzing, tossing around guesses about how many there were. Mike said 20, Sarah swore it was closer to 30. The boat rocked gently as they followed along, nobody in a rush to move on. It was like the dolphins had pulled them into their world, and for a while, it was just them, the water, and those wild, happy creatures. Little did they know, though, that this was just the start. Something was about to catch their eye, and it had changed the whole trip. All right, so the crew, Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Tom, were still glued to the railing, totally hooked on watching this pod of dolphins play around the salty breeze. The sun was dipping a little lower now, painting the water with streaks of gold, and those dolphins were still at it, leaping and splashing like they didn't have a care in the world. It was hypnotizing, you know, like one of those nature shows, but live and right in their faces. They'd lost track of time, just soaking it all in, when Sarah's sharp eyes caught something off. "Hang on a sec," she said, squinting out at the pod. "Look at that one over there." She pointed to the left, where the dolphins were starting to peel off a bit, heading north. Most of them were zipping along together, but there was this one little guy, way smaller than the rest, kinda trailing behind. It wasn't jumping as high or moving as fast, just bobbing along like it was struggling to keep up. Jake lowered his phone and frowned. "Yeah, what's up with that one? Looks kinda off." Mike leaned over the edge, shading his eyes with his hand. "Maybe it's just tired or something. Dolphins get tired, right?" But Sarah shook her head, her brow all scrunched up. "I don't think so. They're built for this. Something's not right." Tom, never one to miss a chance, piped up with, "Maybe it's the dolphin equivalent of me after Taco Tuesday. Too slow to roll." That got a laugh, but it didn't shake the weird vibe settling over the crew. They kept watching as the pod moved farther off, their fins slicing through the waves like little black flags. But that one dolphin? It was definitely lagging now, falling way behind the group. Jake cranked the wheel a bit, nudging the boat closer to get a better look. The water was clear enough that they could see its shape under the surface, and that's when Sarah gasped. "Guys, it's tiny. Like, baby tiny." Sure enough, it was a calf, half the size of the others, with that soft, clumsy look baby animals have. The crew went quiet for a sec, just taking it in. The pod was almost out of sight now, but this little one was still there, paddling along all by itself. Mike scratched his head. Shouldn't it be with its mom or something? Where'd they all go? Sarah bit her lip, scanning the horizon. Maybe they didn't notice it fell behind. Or maybe. She didn't finish, but everybody got the gist. Something was wrong with this baby dolphin, and it was alone out there in the big, wide ocean. Jake killed the engine, letting the boat drift closer. The calf was maybe 15 feet away now, close enough that they could hear the little puffs of air when it surfaced. It didn't seem scared of the boat, just kept swimming in these slow, wobbly circles. Tom leaned over and said, "Ah, man, it's like it's asking us for help or something." And yeah, it kinda did feel that way. The crew swapped looks, that unspoken, "What do we do?" question hanging in the air. They couldn't just leave it, right? Not when it was looking so lost out there. Okay, so there they were, Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Tom, huddled on the salty breeze, staring down at this baby dolphin that was clearly in over its head. The rest of the pod was long gone, just tiny specks on the horizon, and this little guy was still puttering around near the boat, all alone. The ocean was calm, but it felt huge and empty now, like it was swallowing the calf up one slow lap at a time. The crew couldn't peel their eyes off it, and the more they watched, the more they realized something was seriously off. Sarah was the first to clock it. She'd been leaning over the railing, studying the dolphin like it was a puzzle she had to solve. "Wait, look at its fin," she said, her voice sharp enough to snap everybody's heads around. She pointed at the calf's right side, where its little flipper was supposed to be slicing through the water. Except it wasn't. The fin was there, but it was all bent and floppy, hanging at this weird angle that made your stomach twist just looking at it. "Oh man," Mike muttered. "That's messed up." Jake squinted, tilting his lucky cap back. "Yeah, no wonder it's lagging. That thing's busted." The dolphin kept swimming in its wobbly circles, and every time it tried to push with that bad fin, it'd dip to one side, like a kid on a bike with a flat tire. Tom winced and said, "Poor little dude. How's it even keeping up with anything like that?" Sarah crossed her arms, her brain already in overdrive. "It can't. That's why it's out here by itself." The pod probably didn't even realize it couldn't follow. The boat rocked gently as they drifted closer, the calf's tiny blows of air sounding louder now, almost like it was panting. Mike rubbed the back of his neck, looking uneasy. "So what? It just got hurt and they ditched it?" "That's cold." Sarah shrugged, but her eyes were locked on the dolphin. "Maybe not on purpose. They move fast. If it couldn't signal or keep pace, they might have lost track." It made sense, but it didn't make it any less brutal to think about. Tom, trying to lighten the mood, cracked, "Well, it's got us now. Team Dolphin Rescue, reporting for duty." Nobody laughed this time, though. They were all feeling it. That tug you get when you see something helpless and know you can't just walk away. Jake tapped the wheel, thinking out loud. "Okay, but what do we do? We can't exactly call a vet out here." Sarah shot him a look. "We don't need a vet. We need to figure out how bad it is. If that fin's broken, it's not swimming right, and it's not eating right either." They watched the calf a little longer, letting the reality sink in. It was so small, maybe 3 feet long, with those big, dark eyes that made it look way too innocent for the mess it was in. Every few seconds, it'd surface, blow a little puff, and dip back down, that busted fin dragging like dead weight. Mike finally broke the silence. "All right, I'm saying it. We gotta do something. We can't just sit here and watch it flop around till it sinks." Sarah nodded, and Jake gave a slow, "Yeah, you're right." Even Tom, the goofball, was on board, muttering, "Let's save the little guy." So that was it. Decision made. They didn't have a plan yet, but they weren't about to let this baby dolphin fend for itself with a broken fin and no family. The ocean might have been big, but right then, it was just them and that calf, and they were in it together. All right, so the crew, Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Tom, had made up their minds. This baby dolphin with the busted fin wasn't going down on their watch. The little guy was still circling the salty breeze, looking more pitiful by the minute, and they couldn't just sit there twiddling their thumbs. The sun was getting low now, turning the water all orange and pink, but they weren't thinking about the view. They were in problem-solving mode, and it was go time. Sarah took charge, because of course she did. She was the one who always knew what to do when the rest of them were clueless. "First thing, we gotta get it out of the water," she said, hands on her hips. "We can't fix that fin with it swimming around like that." Mike raised an eyebrow. How? We don't exactly have a dolphin net lying around." Jake grinned and jerked his thumb toward the back of the boat. "We've got that old fishing net from last summer. It's tangled as hell, but it'll work." They dug it out from under a pile of ropes and cooler bags, a ratty, green mess that smelled like seaweed and regret. Tom held it up and smirked. This thing's seen better days, but I guess it's the Dolphin's lucky day. They spread it out on the deck, untangling knots while Sarah kept an eye on the calf. It was still close, maybe 10 feet off the side, bobbing up every few seconds like it was waiting for them to figure their crap out. "Okay," Sarah said, clapping her hands like a coach. "Mike, you're the muscle. Help Jake lower the net. Tom, you're on lookout. I'll guide it in." They got to work, moving fast but careful. Jake and Mike draped the net over the edge, letting it sink just below the surface, while Sarah leaned out, coaxing the Dolphin closer with these soft little whistles. "Come on, buddy, we've got you," she murmured. Tom, perched up by the wheel, called out, "It's coming. Like, right at you." Sure enough, the calf swam right into the net, too tired or too curious to dodge it. Jake and Mike hauled it up slow and steady, the ropes creaking under the weight. Water poured off as the Dolphin flopped onto the deck, all slick and shiny, its bad fin bent at that awful angle. Up close, it was even smaller than they'd thought, barely 3 feet, with these huge eyes that made Sarah suck in a breath. "Oh man, you're just a baby, huh?" It thrashed a little at first, flapping its tail, but Mike knelt down and put a hand on its side, real gentle. "Easy, little dude, we're not going to hurt you." It calmed down quick, like it knew they were trying to help. Sarah grabbed a towel from her bag and draped it over the Dolphin's back to keep it wet, then got a good look at that fin. "Yeah, it's broken all right," she said, wincing. "Looks like it got caught on something sharp, maybe a rock or a boat prop." Jake rummaged through the boat's first aid kit. Nothing fancy, just some bandages, antiseptic, and a roll of duct tape. "This is all we've got," he said, holding it up. Tom laughed. "What? We're going to duct tape a Dolphin back together?" Sarah shot him a look, but smirked. "Not exactly, genius. We just need to stabilize it so it can heal." She cleaned the fin with some water and antiseptic, then wrapped it tight with bandages, keeping it straight against the Dolphin's side. It wasn't pretty, but it'd hold. The whole time, the calf just lay there, breathing these little puffs, watching them with those big eyes. Mike kept the towel wet, splashing seawater over it, while Tom muttered stuff like, "Hang in there, champ. You're tougher than you look." When they were done, Sarah sat back and wiped her hands. "All right, that's the best we can do. Now we just got to get it back in the water and hope it's good to go." They all nodded, feeling this weird mix of proud and nervous. They'd caught it, patched it up. Now it was time to see if they'd really saved it. All right, here's where it all wraps up. Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Tom were crouched around this baby Dolphin on the deck of the Salty Breeze, the little guy all bandaged up and looking a lot less floppy than before. The sun was almost gone now, just a thin red line on the horizon, and the air had that cool, salty bite to it. They'd done everything they could, caught the calf, fixed its busted fin as best as a bunch of amateurs with a first aid kit could manage, and now it was time to let it go. But man, they were nervous. Sarah checked the bandages one last time, making sure they'd hold up in the water. "Okay," she said, taking a deep breath. "It's now or never. Let's get it back out there." Mike nodded, still splashing seawater over the towel to keep the Dolphin wet. "Yeah, little dude's been through enough. Time to swim free." Jake and Tom grabbed the edges of the net they'd used to haul it in, ready to slide it over the side. The calf's big eyes flicked between them, like it was sizing them up, and for a second, they all felt this weird connection, like it knew they'd saved its bacon. "On 3, Jake said, his voice steady. 1, 2, 3. They heaved the net over the railing, and the Dolphin splashed back into the ocean with a soft plop. For a heartbeat, it just floated there, bobbing on the surface, and the crew held their breath. "Come on, buddy," Tom muttered, gripping the rail. Then, like it flipped a switch, the calf gave a little flick of its tail and dove under, popping back up a few feet away. It wasn't fast, and it wasn't graceful, but it was swimming, straight and steady, that patched-up fin doing its job. "Hell yeah," Mike hooped, pumping a fist. Sarah grinned so wide her face hurt, and Jake tipped his lucky cap back, letting out a long, relieved laugh. Tom, of course, had to get a line in. Look at him go. We're basically dolphin doctors now. They watched as the calf circled the boat once, twice, like it was saying thanks, then started heading north, the same way the pod had gone. It wasn't zooming, but it was moving with purpose, and that was enough. They stood there, leaning on the rail, watching until it was just a tiny ripple in the dark water. The boat rocked gently, and the quiet settled in, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. Sarah broke the silence first. "You think it'll find them? The pod, I mean." Jake shrugged, but he was smiling. "It's got a shot now. Better than it had before we showed up." Mike clapped him on the shoulder. "Damn right. We gave it a fighting chance." They didn't say much after that, just cracked open a few beers and sat on the deck, letting the night roll in. The stars were popping out, and the ocean stretched on forever, but it didn't feel so big and lonely anymore. They'd done something good, something real. That little dolphin was out there because of them, swimming toward its family, and that stuck with them. Tom raised his can and said, "To the baby dolphin. And to us, I guess, Team Dolphin Rescue forever." They clinked their cans, laughing, and it felt like the kind of moment you'd tell your buddies about for years. So yeah, that's the story. A bunch of regular folks, a beat-up boat, and one scrappy little dolphin that reminded them how much it matters to give a damn. Our concern saves our world, you know? One wobbly fin at a time.